time, I'll call our meeting to order. We welcome you this evening and want you to know that this is an organizational meeting, but it's also a meeting in time for us to get started and get started moving forward. I'd like to invite to the podium this evening Earl Vaughn Sr. so that he can lead us in our invocation, which will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will, all please rise. And Mr. Vaughn, the microphone's yours.
Let us join in prayer. Father God, we thank you for those who offer themselves for public service, and especially tonight we thank you for these who have been elected by their peers to serve as mayor and members of this town council. We pray your blessing upon them, Father, as they serve the citizens of Hope Mills, and pray that you will give them that spirit, that they will work together for the best interests of all involved, so that the town of Hope Mills will make progress and will move forward in the days ahead. And we thank you, Father, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, is there anything that you would like to add to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda that's before you?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Who do you recognize as making that motion?
I would recognize Commissioner Legg. Thank you. We're going to learn tonight the correct way to do that, too. That's part of our agenda.
After all
All
these
right.
years, you'd think we know, wouldn't you?
That's right. At this time, we will start with our first item under new business, and that is discussion of and possible action on chain of command and protocol. And at this time, I'm going to turn this section over to our attorney, to our town manager, Melissa Adams.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor,
Uh-huh.
Board of Commissioners. So included in your packet is a copy of the charter. And I'm not gonna, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can look it over. But then what I did want to, the chain of command and protocol, what's behind the charter is the Town of Hope Mills communications policy. And that's where it addresses the council manager form of government, Board of Commissioners, non-interference, and Board of Commissioners town staff relationship. So I'm just going to hit the highlights. One of the items that I just wanted to draw attention to is under the communications policy, item B, Board of Commissioners non-interference. Number one, the manager is responsible for providing the mayor and commissioners with the information they need to do their jobs. This information is typically provided through agenda items, memorandum, and department reports. And as you know, I also do weekly updates, and then the town manager's town manager's report during the meetings. Item number two, if the mayor or a commissioner needs additional information beyond what the manager has provided, the elected official should contact the manager to request the additional information. The elected official shall not seek additional information from other town employees, as doing so may prevent the manager from having accurate information about an issue, and two, may place an employee in the untenable position of being between an elected official and the manager. For small items, something very inconsequential, I do not have a problem with one of you reaching out to one of the department heads and saying, hey, would you mind such and such? I just ask that you maybe let me know. the department heads are all very good about letting me know when that has happened. So, but for items that, you know, yeah, I need to know that this is happening, or that you need this, or, you know, larger things that are more important, you know, I think that we should probably follow this rule closely. Number 3, neither the mayor nor individual commissioners may give an order to town staff. All communications from the mayor or commissioner shall be directed to the town manager, who will forward requests to the appropriate employee. This policy does not apply to emergency communications to the police and fire departments, but such communications should be directed through ordinary communication channels such as 911. Item number 4, neither the mayor nor any commissioner may attempt to influence, either directly or indirectly, administrative matters that are under the direction of the manager. Examples of such administrative matters include, but are not limited to, hiring, firing, and disciplining of employees, work scheduling, staff recommendations, purchasing, and executing department priorities. Item number 5, if the mayor or commissioner wishes to influence administrative matters, the issue shall be brought to the attention of the manager and the full board of commissioners. The board may then choose whether to address the issue as a matter of town policy. And as I'm going through, if there are any questions or any concerns by any of the members, please stop me and feel free to ask.
Okay.
Item number 6, the mayor's or a commissioner's request for staff assistance shall be directed to the manager. In response, the manager will assign such requests to the appropriate staff, and the request shall be completed in a timely and professional manner. The manager will notify the entire Board of Commissioners of any requests that cannot be timely addressed because the requests are either require more staff time than is currently available or require change in town policy. For example, the manager should forward a request that would require the town to hire a new employee to the Board of Commissioners. And number 7, this policy does not apply to the town attorney, who reports directly to the mayor and the Board of Commissioners. Item C, Board of Commissioners and town staff relationship. Number 1, the mayor, commissioners, manager, and other town employees shall always seek to present the town of Hope Mills in the best light possible. While policy disagreements are to be expected, such disagreements should not generate into disparaging public remarks about either elected officials or town staff. The mayor and commissioners should discuss questions of policy amongst themselves and in an open session. But specific comments about employee performance should be made either to the town manager in private or to the manager and the board in a lawfully called closed session. Neither the mayor nor individual commissioners should publicly criticize individual town employees or departments. Number 3, the manager and town employees should at all times respect the offices of the mayor and the commissioners and should not publicly disparage the town's elected officials. If an employee has a concern about the mayor or commissioner, the employee should express those concerns privately to the employee's supervisor, or in the case of department heads, to the manager. And I believe that concludes basically the outlining the chain of command and protocol. One thing I would like to ask is during the meetings, during our regular meetings, if you do have a question for staff, to please direct it towards me. If it's something that is pretty simple, that I know probably the department head has the answer, then yes, I can allow the department head to come up and address it. But to try to prevent catching someone off guard, or not having the information at hand, please direct it to me. If it's something that we don't have the answer for immediately, then the answer back to you all would simply be that we'll get back to you in a timely manner concerning that issue. So, and that's basically all I have to address concerning that. If anyone has some questions or anything that they would like to add, supplement, delete, change, feel free.
Any questions from anyone? I think the most important thing is that this is something that we need to go over so everyone understands, and that the responsibility for the town lies with the manager, and that we make policy and the manager does the job. So this is, I think, very good information. Anyone else have any comments or anything in reference to this that you, and you'll keep this, so this will be your copy if in case you need to refer back to it. Yes, ma'am?
I do have one other thing that I thought of that does apply to this as well, but maybe is not addressed in this policy. But board members and the mayor should not reach out to town vendors. If you have a question concerning something that one of our vendors is working on, I would ask that you address it to me, and then I can forward it to the appropriate department head, or I can contact the vendor and get the answer for you. So that would be another item that, typically it's the town manager or a department head that reaches out to the vendors when there's questions, concerns, a request for more information concerning an item or something. So,
Any questions about that?
I have one,
Okay.
Mayor. I understand what you said about the mayor and the commissioners not approaching town staff, and I know you said you didn't mind small things, but small things leading to big things.
well,
I personally don't think that it's very professional for a commissioner or the mayor to approach any employee of this town in regards to any business of this town. You're the administrator of the town, and if we need to go to an employee, it should be done through you. Vice versa, if an employee wishes to address a concern about a commissioner or the mayor, they need to go to you and filter that through you. I don't feel like you need to have any leniency on that.
okay.
That would be my opinion. It's just being professional and the way business should be done. I don't think there's a problem with an employee speaking to us or saying, hey, talking about anything. Or,
Small talk, yeah.
small talk. I know a lot of town employees. I talk to a lot of town employees. But when it comes to, business of the town, I think it should be filtered through you. And I have one other question too.
Okay.
And I've had this concern for a long time too about our agenda. And the length of some of our agendas. Is it okay to talk about that now, Mayor? Or
Or
are
would
we in
that
a
come under
different?
rules and procedure?
Well, under our current rules of procedure, if there's this is a special meeting, and it's not on the agenda necessarily, but I believe under our current rules, which we're still under until we change them, if there's something that the board as a whole wishes to discuss, if it's something that we feel like needs to be discussed tonight, then we could do that.
Okay. So would you want to do that now or wait till you get to the rules and procedure?
Well, since we are going to be talking about the rules of procedure, we could, what's the concern? I don't think there's any reason we can't bring it up.
I mean, I just wanted to discuss it. I just had a few ideas to, I think the length of our meetings are entirely too long up here. I think the length of our agendas, I'd like to see about the town going back to agenda meetings with the manager, the mayor, and the attorney. And a lot of these items I see come forward on the agenda are items that can be handled on the administrative level that don't even need to be coming before the board, in my opinion.
There's
But
probably
I-
a lot of things that could be put on consent agenda.
Exactly, and save time of the meetings, and I think if we save meeting time and shorten the length of our meetings and shorten the agenda, we might in turn get more people from the town citizens to come to our meetings, because I have heard a lot of people say that one reason why they won't come is because they don't want to be here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And trust me, I was on the board that did that for a long time, and it's no fun for us either. So that's what I wanted to address. If we need to take it up at a different point, we'll take it up later.
And
Well, there's no action to be taken or anything on that, but it's,
it will, if I may, Dan, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Go ahead.
if I may, I think part of what he's talking about too is, we have internal policies that require out-of-state travel and travel that is longer for 5 days for an employee come before the board. Now, if it's currently budgeted and you've approved the budget, you know, this is just an example. I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't do this, but if it's budgeted and you've approved the budget, then kind of the question has been, why does it have to go back to the board for approval again? So that's just one item. There's a few internal policies that we can maybe look at, whereas those decisions are made by me and not the board necessarily. And then more items that possibly could be placed under consent.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just a case-by-case basis on
case-by-case, yeah.
what does need to go before the board for a vote. And if it's something that can be a consent item, you know, it can always be removed from consent if the board wants to discuss it at the meeting. So maybe the idea is we'll endeavor to put more items on consent than new business, to the extent that they're appropriate for a consent agenda, of course, but.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you know, I agree with the consent agenda, because any one of us could ask to remove something off the consent agenda, place it under new business for discussion.
Right.
And a lot of different things, you know, could be added to the consent agenda that, from new business, that probably wouldn't have any discussion to begin with. Good point, Commissioner Marlin.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Mayor, I agree with Commissioner Marley on the the length of time for the meetings and some of the things that we already have budgeted. Unless it reaches an X number of dollars, I don't think should have to come before us a second time. I mean, just a notification that this is gonna happen, so if I see the police chief's car sitting in Winston-Salem, I say, whoa. But if I know he's gonna be up there for a reason, and we get calls like that sometimes. So I agree, we can probably shorten the meeting some and get the same information as if we went through the whole ordeal of having to talk about it again. Especially stuff like that, you know. I'm not talking about a bid on an air conditioner or repairing a roof, or anything like that. If it's not in the budget, then I think it should come back to us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
The next item is discussion of and possible action on board rules of procedure. This is behind tab 2. And at this point, I'll turn it over to our town attorney to give us some information and tell us about what we need to do.
Sure. Well, as y'all are aware, I'm sure you can amend the board rules of procedure just by a simple vote. It's not an ordinance or anything. It's just a policy that the board uses to govern its own meetings. So, if y'all would like to amend the rules of procedure, you're certainly free to do so. I see the proposed changes. I'm not, yeah. Most of these I don't see any issue with. The one item that I might make a comment on is under appointments and appointed bodies, Rule 38. if we want to make that change, that the mayor may make nominations and vote on appointments under this rule, I don't see any issue with that, but I would certainly read this to be consistent with 160A 69, which is that any such votes that the mayor would take would be in case of a tie. But I think that can be read into our reading of that, because we obviously want our rules of procedure to be consistent with statutory provisions. But other than that, I don't see any issues with the suggested changes.
Remember, have we had I don't recall us having a problem with any of that in the past. I guess I could ask the other board members, especially the other returners, if they recall any problems we've had with that.
I have a question, Mayor.
Sure.
I was always under the impression that it was the mayor's responsibility to appoint committees and everything. I know that's the way it was when I was on the board before. I mean,
Yeah, and if the board wants to do that, then that's totally fine. My only issue is with the concept of voting on something at a meeting. That I think is governed by 168, 169,
Correct.
which says that the mayor votes in the case of a tie. But I believe the board could give the mayor the authority to appoint members with no issues.
it reads that way, right? I know it reads mayor, the mayor may not, may not make nominations. Now it's take not out and make nominations
Right.
and vote on appointments under this rule. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And my only issue there is that by statute, if the mayor is voting, it has to be in the case of a tie. But if you wanted to take it away from the context of voting in open session on the board and just make it an appointment power, I think you do have the authority to give that authority to the mayor. But anytime we're talking about voting during a meeting on an item, then we're governed by that statute.
And basically, if there's only 4 board members present and it's a 2-2 vote, then I would break the tie.
Correct.
Right.
So that would be the only time I would get an opportunity to vote, which is the way the statute reads, that in the way our form of government is. But the powers that the mayor has are given to me by the board. And so that was one of the powers that, being able to appoint, ad hoc committees and committees outside the realm of the board. The other thing that, I think is what they're confused about is where we changed in reference to, sell and lease of property. And is that one?
That's next.
That's on it.
Okay,
That's another
okay.
separate
So
item.
that's the one I think that they're speaking of, is that particular time you'd have, the way it's written, that you have to have a full board.
Right.
But if, so that's the next one coming up.
Right.
Yes, sir?
Just maybe for point of clarification on, Rule 16, under agenda items, Rule 15 and then 16, order of
Hit
business.
reverse on me.
So the purpose of moving the manager's report back under reports and informational items is because it has been suggested that instead of me reading the manager's report during a meeting, it would be included in the packet.
Excellent.
So there really wouldn't be a need for it to come before public comments.
Excellent.
The purpose for it being moved to before public comments was in case I had something in my manager's report that perhaps a citizen had a question or a concern about, it got addressed. And, a lot of times people like to hear that, what's happening, and If they want to leave, they can leave. So there was a couple different reasons for putting it where it was placed. If I'm going to include it in the agenda packet as a written document, there's really no reason for me to read it unless there's questions from the board or unless I have additional items to add. So just for point of clarification, there is that suggestion to move it back under reports and informational items.
So you're gonna give it its own tab?
It's going to be under reports and information.
Okay,
items,
with
yeah.
its own tab, okay.
As a
So,
separate-
yeah,
yes,
moving it
so
back
So-
down to where it was, basically, at the end of
It'll go
the,
back to where it was.
yeah,
And that'll save time.
yeah.
Not having me
So,
read it
just to be clear,
every
Madam
night.
Mayor, just to
Yes,
be
sir.
clear, so when the agenda is published on Thursday, it's going to include your manager's report
Correct.
and the tab? Okay,
Correct.
just to be clear.
Now, there may be times where I've got to add additional items, and I'll read those at the meeting, but typically it'll.
An amendment to it,
Yeah.
okay.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
question.
Okay.
If, so if we wanted to make that change to Rule 16 where the manager's report goes under reports and information items, correct? Like Jesse just said, we can change, we can vote to change that now?
Do you need them to vote on each change
Or as a
separately,
whole?
or as the whole entire document? Or if there's anything they want to remove, or?
Well, if,
And
yeah,
how do you
certainly, if there's a change in here that y'all don't agree on as a majority, then we would not be able to vote on the entire document
Okay.
of changes. But we could have a vote on whether the board wants to adopt all of the changes. And if that motion doesn't carry, then we could vote on each individually. Or if someone has an issue with something in the proposed changes, they could just bring it up before we vote.
Well, Madam Mayor, and
Yes, sir.
that's pretty much where I was going. I have an issue with two items on the proposed. And I want to say something first about the rules of procedure, is that when these rules of procedure were adopted by the former board, which I was a member of, the two documents that guided those decisions were right here. The current rules of procedure matches word for word what's in this book from Trey Allen, except in 5 different places. But it's word for word. Regarding rule number 21, which I have an issue with, and I will read directly from Trey Allen. Rule 21, action by the council. Except as otherwise provided in these rules, the council shall act by motion. Any member may make a motion, not including the mayor, or including the mayor. The comment there is this, and the reason why it says not including the mayor, it's because of the comment. The mayor's voting status should determine whether the mayor is allowed to offer motions at council meetings. In a city with a mayor who may vote only to break a tie, which is what we have now, the mayor should not make motions because he or she has no say in whether a motion passes except when the members who vote are evenly divided. That's why not is there. It's because of that paragraph in this credentialed book from Trey Allen from the UNC School of Government. That's why that's there. The second issue I have, I want to be clear, is on Rule 38, which we just discussed. I go again to the book, and on page 62, where it says the mayor may not make nominations and vote on appointments under this rule. The reason it says the mayor may not make nominations and vote on appointments under this rule is because of this paragraph. A council that adopts this rule should include the words not and or in paragraph C, unless its mayor has the right to vote on all questions, which means the mayor must be able to vote just like every council member here. As noted in the comment to Rule 17B, many mayors have the right to vote only when it is an equal number of affirmative and negative votes have been cast. As with the ability to offer motions, the mayor's voting status should control whether the mayor may nominate individuals under this rule to fill vacancies on the council or appointed boards, as long as the mayor has the right to vote on all questions. That's why that rule has not. And it's both of them are directly from this book. I'm not making this up. It's not personal with me. I mean, if the mayor wants to vote on both of these, then perhaps the charter should be changed to allow the mayor to vote on all issues, not just on one or two, all of them, just like every one of us here. So those are the two issues that I have.
I think the response that I can give to the one about the vote of the council is that is in replacing a member of this council. That, and I know that we went through that before, is that I wouldn't have a vote when you would have a seat. I can't nominate somebody to fill one of these seats. That has to go through a process. I guess leave it to, I know that the powers of the mayor are determined by the commissioners themselves, what they allow the mayor to do. That's one of the first things in the directions.
Yeah, so I agree that if we were gonna follow Trey Allen's comment to the letter, then we would say not in those. What I will say about the Trey Allen book is, of course, it's suggested rules. They're not necessarily required. The only requirement that's legally required is the General Statute 160A69, which is about voting.
Yes, which I have here, and I was going to read that too.
So there is no general statute that I'm aware of that controls making motions or nominations, but there is a general statute that controls voting, which is why earlier on Rule 38, I would say it's okay, it could be okay. It would be legal to say that the mayor may make nominations. I don't think we should say the mayor should vote, because that would be in violation of 160A69. But I think you could, if you're going to follow Trey Allen's recommendations, then yes, you would put no there. But there's no legal requirement that I'm aware of either way, except on the voting piece.
Well, you're right, Dan, and I go back to North Carolina General Statute 160A67, which is the general powers of the mayor and council, which is the reference to both of these paragraphs that I just mentioned in Trey Allen. It says, except as otherwise provided by law, the government and general management of the city shall be vested in the council. The powers and duties of the mayor shall be such as are conferred upon him or her by law, together with such other powers and duties as may be conferred upon him or her by the council pursuant to law. The mayor should be recognized as the official head of the city for the purpose of service of civil process and for all ceremonial purposes. So that's the general statute that supports the language in the Trey Allen manual that was the guide when approving the rules of procedure that the prior board approved. So I'm not going to do anything against the general statutes. And that's just my point.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would not want to do anything against the general statute either, but any place I've ever worked before, any board I've ever been on, we've had guidelines just like the rules of Allen here. But every organization, every municipality operates a little bit different based on the number of people we have, based on the community and what we're trying to do. And I think that what the mayor had did before, we voted on it 4 years ago, and I thought she did a fantastic job. I can't see any of us up here appointing a liaison on our own. The mayor knows who we are. She knows what we've worked on. She knows our capabilities. And she knows where our interest lies. So I think that that number 38 should be changed. And since we're getting into a debate and all, you said we had to vote on them, right?
Since if there's not, well, you could still, you could vote however you want to. You could vote
Okay,
on
if
it as
there's-
a whole. You could vote on them individually. Given that there's not a general consensus on voting it entirely, it may
So
be
we can
better to
have
vote
yours.
individually.
Jane?
Under
Yes.
Rule 39D,
Uh-huh.
the mayor is given, the mayor may appoint a board of commissioners member to serve as the liaison
Mhm.
for any standing committees, boards, or other bodies pursuant to this section. Role of the board of commissioners liaison is to facilitate communication between the board of commissioners and the committee or board, and keep the board of commissioners informed on the activities of the committee or board. So she has that.
So she can appoint the
Right.
ad hoc committees and everything now without changing?
No,
anything?
liaisons.
It doesn't
Liaisons.
address ad hoc specifically.
Well, that's what I'm referring to also.
But, well, that's later in our agenda.
Well, it's in this section, it's underneath D, in Rule 39, are additional rules that were discussed by the board, last March, related to advertising the openings and so forth, and there was a section that, yes, it's numbered H now, temporary and ad hoc committees, upon approval of the board of commissioners, temporary or ad hoc committees of limited duration may be exempt from these requirements and or the requirements of Rule 38 and 39 of the board of commissioners rules of procedure. That was what was presented to the board, and in the motion, related to this, they decided not to adopt that particular section, but I've added it here for your consideration too.
Well, that's what I'm,
But
Yeah.
that doesn't,
Mhm. And Madam Mayor, just for
Yes, sir.
clarification, I don't have an issue with that part of temporary or ad hoc committees. I go back to Rule 21, and I read directly from page 34, and that, all it has to do with is motion, is the members of this board make the motions, because we are the voting members. That's the issue with that one. The other one, and Dan was correct on Rule 38, the mayor may make nominations, but not vote on appointments. And they both meet the statute, the general statute. Both of them will meet the general statute and the Trey Allen language, if they are worded in that way. So that's the two issues that I have. And it's not personal with me. It's strictly by the credentialed and the state law.
State law says that the Board of Commissioners can give the powers, and limited, but whatever powers to the mayor. So that's how previously those powers were allowed to the mayor. Every mayor that I can track back has always been able to appoint ad hoc committees. When it comes to our regular town committees, the board goes through a nominating process, and the board has to approve those nominees. The mayor does not have a vote on those. The mayor only has the appointment of the liaison to those committees. But I can tell you that if you track it back, all the way back to as far back as I can go, the mayor, Mayor Bradford was the one that did the ad hoc committee for Friends of the Library that actually garnered us the library sitting over there years ago. So it's always been it was addressed with the board in, I'm not sure what year, that they actually put it in writing and put it, that the mayor would have that authorized by the board to form those ad hoc committees.
Mayor, you're missing my point.
I'm not
Look-
missing your point.
Yes, you are, ma'am.
Okay,
Page 15, item C, mayor. The mayor may make nominations, and this next part is the issue, and vote on appointments under this rule. That's the issue, is the vote word.
well, I don't
That's
normally,
the issue.
I don't normally vote unless there's a tie.
But it's right here. See, that's what read that.
Well, let me weigh
It
in
needs to
here,
be
because
removed or not vote.
I tend to agree that we should not have voting powers in here because that is directly contradicting the general statute.
Yes.
So all
We
we're
could-
asking.
That's my issue.
all
We
your-
could
all
add
of-
language that says, for example,
I don't want
the
to,
mayor may make nominations and vote in the case of ties on appointments. That would
Okay.
be consistent with the
Okay.
statute. I'll also just note, just for the record, if you look at Freda Bluestein's article on powers of mayors, it does say General Statute 160A-67 specifically allows the council to delegate powers to the mayor in addition to those that the legislature delegates by statute or charter. This might occur by resolution or over time unless explicitly by practice and habit. These delegations of authority are examples of things that are not permanently binding either on the board that makes them or on future boards. The council may expand or contract these discretionary powers, that is, those that are conferred by council rather than by statute or charter as it sees fit. Just, I won't weigh in one way or the other whether you should or shouldn't have that language, but as a legal matter, I think it would not be inconsistent with 160A-67, other than the piece I mentioned on voting.
so that would mean that under appointments and appointed bodies, item C, we would just be striking vote on appointments under this rule.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay?
Mhm.
So is that what you're asking, Commissioner Bellflower?
Yes, I am.
What is that, Madam Mayor? May I
On
ask?
School board
item
to
C,
clarify that the vote
under
is
30.
only in the case of a tie.
Right. Or a vote on appointments
Items
only in a case of a
under-
tie. Adding that in would correct that.
I believe so.
Okay, does
Under
that,
38,
on 38C,
Page 16.
page,
No, page 15.
page, so
I've got it here, but what are you wanting, what are
Under
you
C.
suggesting?
It would read, the mayor may make nominations and may vote in the case of a tie.
okay.
Is that correct?
That-
Is
Yes,
that how
I
we
believe,
want
I
to
believe that language would be consistent with 160A-67.
Yeah.
Or may vote only in the case of a tie.
Right.
Okay, that's
only.
good.
One of
Maybe
the,
the word only needs to be.
Okay, is there anyone have anything different as far as that change?
Well, Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
Ma'am. I don't have a problem with that right there at all. What I would have a problem with, because there's 5 members of the board, if the mayor was able to vote on an agenda item, we could still end up tied 3-3, and it's my understanding that that would pass because of the tie. Is that correct?
well, if 5 members were here voting, there wouldn't be a tie.
Well, but if the mayor voted and there were 6,
But she would only vote in the case of a tie.
Well-
So it would only be if someone were absent or had to recuse themselves.
right, I understand that.
2-2.
But I'm saying if she was made a regular voting member,
Oh.
we could have 3-3 ties. And then, am I correct if that item would pass then?
I'm not sure, but that's not something that I don't believe the board is considering at this time.
Ms. Starling may know that.
In other locations that I've worked, the mayor did vote, and there was a possibility of a tie, and a tie was a failure of the vote. It had to be a majority,
Okay.
but we're not considering that tonight.
No.
That's not within any of this.
I don't have a
You'd have to
problem with the
amend
mayor
the
names
Yes.
liaisons and stuff like that.
I'm sorry.
She knows what each committee needs more than we individual people do. But I think it ought to be in the interest of someone experience their past, like Mr. Bellflower's with the veterans. He's involved in that, and he's he's active in that. So I would think that would be a good person to be with the veterans. Anyway, I don't want to dig a hole too deep here. We can't fill it in.
Madam Mayor, I come back to Rule 21.
All
If
right.
you could weigh in on that one, Dan. Page 9.
So again, I read this as allowing, and again, I would agree that if we want to go by the letter of the Trey Allen recommendation, we would put not including the mayor in there.
Correct.
Again, the statutory provision that I think we would be concerned about is with regard to voting. I don't view this as necessarily violating, or not in any way violating that statute, because it doesn't allow the mayor to vote.
Okay.
It would allow the mayor to make a motion, but not vote on that motion. It's, you know, I don't necessarily view that as a violation of that statute. But again, I would agree that if you want to go with the Trey Allen recommendation, then
Well, and that's how we adopted the rules of procedure, word for word from Trey Allen.
This
That's
is a
where
new
it came
board. That's why we're revisiting
I
them,
understand.
Commissioner
That's-
Bellflower.
I understand. I'm just,
Because these were changed by the previous board from the rules that were presented by the previous board. So every time there's a new board, oftentimes you have to revisit. One that I've had several people ask me about, and I know it's Rule 22, and that is that we don't have to have a second to a motion, and that's something that
I had a question
yeah,
about that.
Commissioner Marley had asked me about that because of, and I know that we've had some other discussion, because most meetings, the meeting I went to today, Mid-Carolina Council, if a motion's made, it has a second. If there's not a second, it dies for a lack of a second, and then there's no discussion. And so the question has been, and I guess Commissioner Marley let you ask the question since you brought it to
I
my
just-
attention too.
I just basically had a comment. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel like any motion that comes before the board, or any member that makes a motion, it should require a second. And if it doesn't get a second, it falls for lack of support. So I mean, I think that would save a lot of time and energy. I mean, every board, every committee I've ever served on, to make a motion, and for that motion to move forward, it had to have a second. That's just my opinion.
will of the board. There's no requirement one way or the other.
That would keep me that would keep me from just coming on here and making a motion. If I can make a motion on anything, and then it has to be acted upon. Where if I make a motion and it doesn't get a second, then it falls and we move on.
I think the idea is presumably if no one seconds it, it would not pass a vote anyway. But there's no legal requirement to have a second, to not have a second. It's just whatever the board wants to do on that.
Madam
Madam
Mayor,
Mayor.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
Oh, okay, yes, ma'am.
With Rule 21, I don't see why it would hurt the mayor making a motion. I think the only thing that she basically says is, I need someone to make a motion. I don't see a problem with that. But Rule 22, I've never seen it done otherwise, that you don't have a second.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So is there any way we can, I know it's not highlighted as a change right now, but could that be made a change if we wanted to do that?
Yeah, probably the best way to do it is if we're going to make changes to this version, then we adopt it at the next meeting. But if we can decide on the changes that you want made tonight and then bring it, we can even put it on the consent agenda. If the board agrees on the general language.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to sound like a broken record over here, but again, I agree with Mr. Marley. If a motion can't draw a second, it's not likely to pass, and that's just time wasted by the board. So, for years, we had seconds until this past year, and I don't remember how we got out of that. But I'm in favor of having a second to show that someone is going to support it before we take the time and the mayor has to call for a vote, and then it would fail for lack of support. So if it doesn't have a second, then it doesn't have much support.
Okay. Any other weigh-ins on that one? So can we,
Do we want to go through, since we're sort of jumping around here, do we just want to go through from the beginning and vote on each suggested change?
and then we could adopt it tonight
Or
if we do
change
that?
language? Well, if we agree on all the suggestions, then we could adopt
Okay.
it tonight. But I think if we're going to make changes to it, we ought to bring it back as a full document, completed document.
Okay,
Mhm.
sounds
I mean, if
good.
there's major changes, a word or two, since this is not an ordinance, it's not that big a deal. It's just the board's internal rules. But I think if we're gonna make major changes, we probably ought to bring it back so that the board has a full, complete document to vote on.
Okay, so if we look at the first page, that is just the changes that have been made, that where we went in and made, the Board of Commissioners, instead of council, and the word city has been replaced by town. So those, I don't think we need to do anything with that as far as a mayor can vote on that, because that would be procedure. So the next one that we would be looking at would be
Is
page.
there at least consensus on that change?
Is everybody okay with that change? Main thing, what they did is just made sure that some of these had been written using city or had used council instead of commissioners. So what they've done is gone through and changed those. So is that okay with everyone? Nod. Good. Okay. All right, then we go next, would be the next change will be on page 5. And that would be transacting other business.
Good.
That's a subcategory of special meetings.
Okay,
And as I read this, what this would say is currently, as we discussed earlier tonight, at a special meeting, if an agenda item, if somebody wants to add something and the entire board agrees to add it, and it's not something that would require public notice, you could add it. This would say if it's a specially called meeting, you can only discuss things that are in the notice.
And I think there's a typo in here. It should read, in order to provide transparency, items not included in the meeting notice shall not be taken up. And it reads, shall be taken up. So the word not
Not,
needs to be put in
okay.
there. That's what, yeah,
If that's the will of the board.
if that's the will of the board.
okay, so.
We'll be, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll get a new notification or a new printout of this before. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So anyone, on item D on page 5, adding not after shall, and reading that is, everyone in favor of making that change?
Good.
Good, 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 good.
Good.
Okay. All right, then we move over to page 6, and that would be, and this is under item 2, under draft agenda. And the change there is, at least 2 working days before the date of the packet publication. So, and was recommended by Ms. Starling, so it gives chance for the staff to preview what was going there.
What number is that again, Madam
It's
Mayor?
item 2 on page 5, under Rule 13.
Okay, requesting
Yes,
replacement?
ma'am.
One of the reasons for requesting that change, if you guys give me an item to put on the agenda 2 days before the meeting, the agenda packet would have already been published by then. And it would have to go back and be amended, and,
Yeah.
it doesn't give staff time to review it and see what it is that you want, and see if they can find the supporting documentation and that sort of thing for you.
So we'd have to have it to you on Tuesday if the packet's going to be published on Thursday.
Yes.
That's the example. And it's fair enough.
Yeah.
More than fair.
Right. All right, the next item would be under 4, and that is that they're wanting to check, that you're gonna receive an electronic copy of the draft agenda and the agenda package to promote efforts to go paperless, and that you can request a hard copy if necessary. And I know that, and this is just something I know that we did one time before, is that you could actually check out your laptop if you don't have the availability of something at home. You just have to remember to bring it back, because I know we did have a commissioner that did that previously. So that's a thought, that if you need the laptop, it can go, it's yours for use for even away from here. You just have to check it out. And that would mean that we wouldn't be printing up so much of the agenda items, or printing up the full agenda, especially when there's so many tabs. That is a lot of paper. So any thoughts on that? Any concerns?
Ma'am.
Yes, sir.
That's the reason several years ago I supported going to personal computers for the commissioners, to save the cost of paper and ink. It's had to save us a lot of money since we went to the computer system. I think it works fine the way it is. I get it at home on my computer. What do I do?
No, he's just he wants to speak after you.
Oh,
No,
you can speak with me, to me, or after. But that's just my opinion on that. Is I think we probably saved lots of money since we went to the computer system. And I thank you very much for getting us that stuff in a timely manner, so we have time to study or to go by and look at it, or whatever their need may be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else have thoughts on that? Commissioner
good.
Marley?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay.
Good.
All right, and then we go.
You're good.
I'm good.
It's good. All right, amending the agenda item under B, adoption of the agenda, amending the agenda both before and after it adopts the agenda. The Board of Commissioners may add or subtract agenda items by majority vote of the members present and voting, except the Board of Commissioners may not add the items stated in the notice of special meeting. And
It's essentially taking this rule and conforming it to the change in the special meeting that we just
Okay.
made. Because this language is superfluous since there are no requirements.
okay, so that all right, now on those three items there, is there any reason that anyone would not support those? Seeing a raise of hand, are we in favor of making these changes? All in favor, raise of right hand.
Good.
All right, we're good. Mr. Commissioner Moore, you good?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
That's
I
all
was
right.
reading, I'm sorry.
okay. All right, then we go to page 7, and on here is moving the manager's report back down under reports and informational items. And,
We already discussed,
Yeah,
right,
we
16,
discussed- yeah.
21, 22, and 38.
so this,
we can-
yeah, so is there anything on this that, do we agree with these two changes? Basically, it's not, she's still
good.
gonna do the report, it's just gonna be moving back down to report section.
We're good.
And it's-
Everybody good?
It's going to be a written copy sent out
So you don't
prior
have,
to the
yeah.
meeting, so.
So unless there's questions, you don't really have to even go over it. Okay. All right, all those okay with that, right hand
Yes,
up?
ma'am.
Good.
Okay, we're
I
good?
like the manager's report, but I can read it
Yeah.
instead of having her present it.
Okay. All right, then we go to motions and voting, and we're looking at the, any member may make a motion, including the mayor, and then under that one, we're leaving it alone. What we're adding is that we're gonna require a second to a motion, for a motion to be discussed. So do you want to tell us how you're gonna word that, or do we just take that out, or what do we do?
Just say a second will be required on any motion.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, anything else, any other concerns about this page? Are we all good with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that affirmative all the way around? Okay. Then we go to, page page 15, and on that one, the change is the mayor may make nominations, but vote only in case of a tie. And that would be,
or something along the,
Or may make,
yeah, the mayor may make nominations and may vote in the case of ties on appointments. in the district
Okay.
Without,
got it. So what they're doing is taking away, since I don't vote except in case of a tie, they're actually putting that verbiage in there so that people understands that I wouldn't vote unless it was a tie. Everybody good with that?
That's good.
All right, we're good. All right, then we go to item 16. And I guess, any questions about this one?
My one question is, why is the language may be exempt from Rule 38 and 39? Why is that there?
that would allow a temporary or ad hoc committee to not necessarily go through the voting process of the board, but just be appointed. Essentially, I believe that was what the mayor was doing prior, is for an ad hoc committee or a temporary committee.
In other words, it's not a permanent committee, it's a committee for
Mhm.
some item of short duration, and it doesn't have guidelines like our regular committees would.
And a specific purpose.
Yeah,
that-
specific
that's-
purpose.
Not that I disagree, Mayor, I just clarification.
Okay.
That's all.
All righty. Any other thoughts on this one? All right. Head nod, hands up.
Good,
We're
good.
Good, we're good. All righty. And that takes us to the end.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am?
okay, in that, I think we've covered something that was also, wanted to be addressed, and that is, we probably need, there is the wording, no individual is eligible to serve on any board or committee on which a member of their immediate family or household currently serves. I
Yes.
believe there was a request to possibly discuss changing that.
Yeah, that, in fact, that was one of the concerns was that, which would be item D, that relatives or spouses would be allowed to serve on committees. So that came under, you've got it under tab 4, but that came under rules and procedure at this point.
It's because that's where it was put in
Yeah,
to this rule.
I
Okay.
think, yeah, tab,
Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I personally see no problem with having,
Tab 4 has that, but, yeah.
I personally see no problem with having family members or husbands and wives serving on a committee for the town. I know we have a problem with filling committees as it is, and if people are willing to serve and volunteer, then I certainly don't have no problem with it.
Madam Mayor, I firmly agree too. The Veterans Affairs Commission was started by a husband and wife for years. And that would be the Clarks. And there are other committees that I don't see a problem with husband and wife teams serving on committees. I really don't.
Okay.
Mayor, where was that at in here?
This is actually on
How do we
page,
need to word
if you
that?
go to page 16, I think you can just remove that last sentence
It's
under
like the
item,
last- yeah,
under item E, if you strike the last sentence.
Yeah, last sentence. Mhm.
Because that's where it was added, no individual is eligible to serve on any board or committee on which a member of their immediate family or household currently serves. So if you strike that, then that takes away that, not allowing, family members to serve together.
I'm
I
good
mean,
with that.
because it's going to go through board approval anyway.
Right.
Through the nominating committee up to full board vote on all nominations. But we've had a tremendous amount of strength from family members, you know this, Commissioner Marley, over the years.
I
So,
served with the Veteran Affairs.
Yeah.
I was the liaison.
and you know what I'm talking about, yeah, with Jim and Jean Clark.
Yeah. All right, so, with that, striking that one sentence, is everybody okay still with that? Okay, yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, all righty. All right, so now we've completed our rules of procedure, and,
so we'll bring those with
Back
the
in a-
suggested changes, as not a red line, well, I guess we could do a red line or final document. And put that on the consent agenda for
Okay.
the next regular
December
meeting.
16th.
December 16th. And then then so that they will have them, if we can have, I know, that was very informative to have the copy here at our desk if there was a question about anything. So that would be the other thing, as soon as we get those, maybe by the first meeting in January, we could have that actual printed document for us, and that would give them something to carry with them. Okay? All right, next thing on the agenda is discussion of discussion of impossible action on ordinance 2018-09, consideration of sale or long-term lease of real property. And I turn that over to Mr. Hartsock.
I'll take it. Sorry. That's okay. So this is the ordinance on the sale of land, which again, the board can change, strike, amend, whatever y'all want to do. Repeal, yeah. It would be the same.
Can I speak to this?
Yes, sir.
Y'all probably gonna get tired of hearing me talk, but I think this ordinance, it could be good and bad. I think it's bad in the way that it holds up progress. It holds up the town business. You know, I don't see the real reason for having every member present to vote on something. I mean, majority's gonna rule anyway. So if the rest of the board is present that night and one member's gone and the majority is in favor of it, it's gonna pass anyway. So why hold up town business for another 2 weeks for that?
Madam Mayor, I
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
question as well. What would happen, for instance, if, God forbid, something happened to one of us and we were not here for 2 or 3 months and you needed to take action on it and you can't take action on it because one of us is not present for a period of time?
That, under this ordinance, you'd have to wait.
Is it hunting season? It might be mean right here.
So how would we,
We'll
how,
call you.
you didn't give us a red line on this, so what would we do? Just,
I don't, yeah, if you, I mean, you do whatever you want to with it. You could keep it, you could change it, amend it, or you could, repeal it.
just repeal it?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there's two parts of this thing. One of them is the full board to discuss or hear the offer. The full board must be present to hear an offer. Then the second part of that is the sale piece. So are we saying that to hear the offer doesn't require the full board? But to sell a piece of municipal property, this is not private property, public property, belongs to taxpayers. To sell a piece of town-owned property, what's the statute there? Is it supermajority? Is it simple, 3-2, or
As far as I'm aware, it's
3-1, or
it's simple majority.
simple majority? That's kind of the issue I have, is there. I think maybe, and is that by statute? Just,
I'm not sure that there's a statute that has a specific requirement on that, so by default, it would be simple majority.
yeah.
But I think the concern was that I would break a tie.
Oh, I don't know what the concern
But
is.
no, but that was the reason this came about, was because the mayor would break the tie. So that it can also hold up progress, like Dr. McCray was saying, because if you can't make a decision, and uniquely, I think it should be said, I'm elected just like you are, and if it comes right down to it, I represent the citizens too. So if I have to break a tie, I would be breaking it in the best interest of the town of Hope Mills. It wouldn't be for any other reason. So, but
Well,
this
to
was.
remove that, Madam Mayor, why don't we say that to sell requires a supermajority? Why don't we just say that? No? Why don't we just say a supermajority? That's just 4.
Well,
Why don't we just change both of them to be the
Just-
majority?
this was written, and so all you need to do is just repeal this, because just like any other major business, if you don't have a full board here, then if it does end up to be a tie, then the mayor breaks the tie. There's also a good chance that no matter what you deal with, that I've voted, I think, in all my years, I have voted maybe twice So, I mean, it's very limited the amount of opportunity there is because typically everyone's here. If
Madam
you-
Mayor, I don't
okay.
think full board should be required on either one, but I do believe we should have a supermajority to sell town-owned taxpayer property. I feel strong about that. I do believe supermajority should be required to sell. We're talking about municipal property. That's just how I feel.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes. He spoke first.
I'm sorry. You spoke of the supermajority. If one person's gone and the other four vote for it, that's your 4/5 vote. So that's your supermajority.
That
So
is.
if only
Mhm.
one's gone, I mean, we're still, you can still vote on it. But my personal opinion is I don't think this is, and if I'm speaking out of order, let me know, but this is the manager's job. This is the manager's job to hear these offers and negotiate these contracts, and then come to the board with her opinion and her recommendation to the board. And then it's our job to vote on it to either accept what she's done or deny it and send her back to the drawing board. That's her job. That's what we pay her to do. So I myself have no problem with repealing it. But that's just my opinion. But as you said, Commissioner Bellflowers, even if one of us is gone, even if we did do the supermajority thing, there's four here, and if those four vote for it, then it's still a 4/5 vote, and it's still going to pass. So,
Yeah. I
It'd
feel
be the
strong
same.
because that property doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the taxpayers. And I believe supermajority warrants the sale of any town-owned property. That's just my thought.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
Also, we have our town attorney that advises us on stuff like that. To sell property, not to sell property. And sometimes as I read through some of the stuff that I get, I'm thinking before we sold any town property like that, I'd like to hear from the public. If it be a public hearing or whatever it should be, to see what their thoughts are on disposing of real property. I'm talking about land mainly. So I would like to hear from them, if it need be, in order to get their ideas and their thoughts on why we should or why we shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you
Mayor.
can be permitted to do that if you like. There's no legal requirement. I will say there are statutory procedures for the disposal of town property, and depending on the value, there's different requirements that you need to go through. So there are statutory procedures that we would be following regardless of what the ordinance said.
Man.
Yes, sir.
So doing away with this wouldn't affect any of those regulations, correct?
No, those are general statutes.
Yeah, it wouldn't affect anything if we were to do away with this.
Commissioner Edwards?
Mayor Warner.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with Commissioner Marley. I think that our town manager, there's a lot of times people come to her and she has the staff to check it out and see what's going on. And a lot of things that come in don't even need to come to us because they've already decided we can't do it. So why bother the commissioners or even bring it up? But the whole time I've been here and Melissa's been in charge, or town manager, I think she's done a fantastic job, and the staff has, and that's what they're paid for, and they're fantastic. And who are we to say, well, we shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that when they've already checked it out? So I think all this should go back to our town manager like it was before, and that we should repeal this.
Madam Mayor, could we table this one to our next meeting to give our town attorney an opportunity to bring back some suggestions for this?
Why would you need,
Okay, fine.
what would,
I
what,
would need guidance from the board on what the board wanted.
okay.
Well, that's if they were in consensus for the supermajority.
Madam Mayor, that would delay us longer in solving these problems like this if we have to wait 4 weeks instead of 2 weeks to hear it again.
Right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'll break the ice. I'd like to make a motion that we repeal ordinance number 2018-09.
I'll second
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I
All the-
third it.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, all those opposed. So it'd be 4-1. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is we've covered item D,
Yeah, I
so
think
we can.
It's covered by the rules of procedure.
Rules of procedure. Next is discussion of and possible action on appointment of commissioners to ex officio seats. And that's been covered through the rules of procedure. And then the,
Well, I'm
Right.
sorry, Madam Mayor, I think, shouldn't we get this board to
tab 5, is that the actual appointments that you're?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
Well,
ahead of you.
I think we actually need to adopt the new rules of procedure first. Because this is falling under the new rules of procedure, they need to be in place before we take action pursuant to those rules.
So we table that item?
Wait till vote on this. You could put this
On the December 16th.
on the December 16th agenda, because we'd have to approve the
think-
actual rules of procedure. Okay.
And I think the only thing, there was a FCEDC meeting scheduled for December 12th, which would be before, but that has been canceled and moved to
Okay.
January.
Okay.
So I don't think there would be any, I would still continue to go to the PWC. I think there is a meeting next Wednesday, so, but I don't think there's anything else that would be a conflict.
Okay. All right, so we'll just wait till December 16th. All right, then discussion of impossible action on attending chamber luncheon on December 9th.
What was the problem with that, Mayor?
I think the main thing was that we've been hesitant to attend the chamber luncheons, and we want to try to build a rapport there because of all the things that are taking place in our town as far as new businesses and growth. And I know that they meet once a month, and that luncheon is next door, 12:30, and usually it's over by 1:30-ish, 2. 2.
Networking begins at 12:30, so you don't have to go at 12:30.
Mhm.
Lunch begins at 1 and ends at 2.
Okay.
So
Right.
if you only have an hour, you can attend for the lunch.
I
If you
think
have
the-
an hour and a half and
Yeah.
would like
Right.
to
Yes, sir.
include the networking, it's 12:30.
Couple questions for you. I mean, was there a problem with town staff or board members going to that in the first place? I mean, what was the?
We want to just reaffirm that it's okay for the board to attend. I think what was happening is we weren't having very good attendance, and we just want to build that relationship because the fact that that group supports us in our
Right.
endeavors as far as the
My second statement on that
Mhm.
is, I think it's important that, especially the mayor and our planning department, Chancellor, I think I said his name right, Chancellor, I can't never get his name right. I apologize to him for messing that up. But I think that's another one, as far as town staff, that really needs to be there networking with business owners and you know, working to bring things to Hope Mills. That would be my opinion. And
Okay.
I don't think it would be a problem for him to go network, eat, whatever. I mean, that's part of his duties. And so I'd like to see us get involved in that.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? I know that it's not something that we would, I think a representative of us can be there. Not required that everybody go because with work schedules and other things, but I think it just needs to let them know that we do support the chamber. And that, you know, we'll have someone there from staff or somewhere. I try to attend. I don't miss too many of them, so I represent the board, but it would be nice to have commissioners come, and Commissioner Edwards goes a good bit, and the staff. So I think that's the main thing, is just letting them know that this board does want to support what the chamber is doing.
Well, I agree with you,
Yeah.
Mayor. We should have a stronger partnership and relationship with them. I know a lot of times at 1 o'clock for me, I have class.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult, you know, for me, unless I find a colleague of mine that wants to cover. And I'm going to start doing that more than I have in the past. You know, may not attend every month, but I'm going to attend more than I have.
Yeah.
And that may be the same for Mayor Pro Tem. I don't know what her schedule is, but
Right.
It's the same thing. We're at work and it's on the other side of town. and
Right.
we
It's
live on
hard
the
to
side
do
of
both.
town, so it's hard to do both. But I did attend in the summer because my schedule's more
Yeah.
flexible, and I am attending their Christmas party next week.
Good. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
at a minimum, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but at a minimum, I'd like to see you, the town manager, and our planning staff at those luncheons.
Yeah.
And Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners, Finance Director Drew Holland, and Development and Planning Administrator Chancellor McLaughlin, and myself have regularly been.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yes.
not been an issue.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have been
Yeah,
regularly.
you know, like I said, I think at a
when we can.
minimum,
So
at a minimum,
We'll
at a
continue.
minimum, that's who we should
we'll
be
gladly
sending.
continue to
Okay.
do that, so.
Okay. The item G, this is something that I requested, and I'll explain to you why. I believe that we need to introduce ourselves to all the media that we can get to come here. So that would include any of those writers that do the opinion columns, say with the Fayetteville Observer, the Up and Coming, the Sandspur, the ones that constantly come, like Akila Davis and Jared with CBS. The idea is that they need to meet this board, and then we, if nothing else, start off with a positive impact that, you know, we're welcoming them, and guess, so you can identify who they are too. I don't know how your thoughts are on that, but my thoughts were that might be a good way to start, would be to have some kind of interaction. And the reason we chose January 10th was because we thought that would be an opportunity that we could get them here instead of trying to do something too soon. Any thoughts on that? And it will not bother me if you don't agree with me, but it's just I feel like we've had a lot of we want to move forward in a positive way.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think it's very important that we have I'm gonna call it a personal relationship with the people who cover our stories in Hope Mills. Earl Vaughn Jr. and I have been friends forever, and I trust everything that Earl Vaughn would put in print. And I'd like to have the same relationship with Roger and everyone else who writes the articles. I think it's very important that we learn to trust them and let them trust us. Hope that helps.
Okay.
Mayor Warner.
Yes, ma'am.
I personally think it'd be a good idea, but also it would be good for the media and other resources to know not only the board, but also who the town manager is and who our staff is, the police department, fire department, who they could contact themselves for information that they need for stories and all, rather than having to call the mayor each time. And that would free her up to do other things that she wants to do also. But I think it'd be good for them to get to know the staff and town manager, and also our attorney, and Jane, all of them. Well, I'm not gonna name every one of them, but anyway, I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, was there, Madam Mayor, was there a particular time that you?
That I was,
Is this
what
what
we would probably want to try to have a time that we could get everybody there. So, yeah, we wouldn't want to, the two that we know, Commissioner Bellflowers and Dr. McCrae, I don't even know what day of the week that is.
It's a Friday.
A Friday, okay.
I think we're good.
Good on Friday.
think we're- I
Good
think
on
we're good.
Friday.
Yeah.
What about you on Friday? Good on Friday.
Is it hunting season?
So you want to do, would you rather do morning or, what time would you think,
Should we ask the writers? I mean,
what's
we
a
got
better time?
Evening, can we do the evening?
Ms.
He and I
Blevins,
on
morning or
birthdays.
evening? Roger, morning or evening?
I
Will,
think,
morning or evening?
don't we have State of the College? It's that week, I don't know what day, and it may be Friday.
Yeah, because we on workdays.
Yeah.
Can we
Our
do it?
classes start on January 13th, so
Okay.
that day is very premium to both of us on campus.
Okay.
If you were to look at the following Friday, I think that may be a little bit better for us. Just
How-
speaking for me,
The 17th.
yes, I think that would be better for us.
How about you, writers?
Since it is
May I
a
ask it?
Friday and you're asking staff,
It's,
could be.
well, and the 17th will be the preceding the, holiday on Monday.
Yes.
That might not be the best day.
The 17th.
About Thursday.
Thursday, what,
The
for
16th.
them, Thursday would work when, if we did it on
Evening.
Thursday?
In the
Thursday evening? So if you-
5:30?
5:30 on a Thursday evening?
As long as there's no other committee meetings on the 16th, and I don't know, we'd have to look at the committee schedules.
Can we ask the members of the press that are here? Roger, Earl, Ms. Blevins?
Okay. I'm not sure what my schedule is. Okay, so what we could do is maybe do, what if you did maybe some form of an email to find out what would be a good time, and if we use that 16th, but knowing that we'd need it to be evening, or, early evening. And
Late
just,
afternoon,
yeah.
early evening.
And then if that date turns out to be not good for most, then we might need to
We
look
can
at an
come back with
option,
another
come
date.
back. Okay. All righty, well,
Leave it
do
up
we
to the
need to
town
do it,
manager?
do we need to do a motion or any kind of action on that, or can we do it by consensus? It's
Proclamation.
okay?
Just
All
leave
right.
it up to the town manager.
Okay, so we're
schedule
leaving
that.
this up to you, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, now we have, anything else that anyone has is in reference to anything we've discussed? If not, we, will have a motion, and Dr. McCray, you get to make your first motion as far as going into closed session.
I make a motion that we, to conduct closed business pursuant to NCGS 143.3.1811 to consult with attorney on matters within the attorney-client privilege and pursuant to, do I have to read all of those numbers? NCGS 143.318.11A6 to discuss a personnel matter.
I have
Second.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And if you will, go directly to the conference room so that we can take care of this business and we won't hold up our visitors here very long.
Yes.
At this time, I'll call our meeting back to order.
I move to seal the minutes of the closed session until such time as the release of the information would no longer frustrate the purpose of the closed session and further no action was taken.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
I would also like a motion to make an addendum to the town manager's contract to include longevity pay effective December 1st, consistent with personnel policy. I would also like to make a motion to receive a monthly travel allowance to include the months of January, February, and March in the amount of $200.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And any other thing?
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
It's your turn.
Motion to adjourn.